of schedule rank of the 12 teams, of the top 12 teams. So you mean to tell me that somebody over there at That's an Information did not have access to whatever the college football?
No.
Do you see what this is just release it all. But according to the ESPN college football schedule comparison and the strength of schedule rank, Alabama has the 11th toughest schedule in college football. Now, when you look at the metrics of the other 12, Georgia comes in at number 1, and then Bama would have the second toughest schedule based on the rest of the top 12 teams. Oregon, 45th in strength of schedule. Ohio State, 19th. Miami, 46th. Texas, 54th. Penn State, 28th. Tennessee, 33rd. Indiana, 103rd. Strength of schedule. BYU, 61st. Notre Dame, 75th. Boise State, 59th. So I guess we can look at that metric, Landrum, and take that moving forward as, I guess, the gospel when we start trying to derive how they're coming with certain type of rankings based on strength of schedule that we're not supposed to know about.
Well, you only have a certain number of teams that you can pick from, and they're not all going to have schedules, but at some point you have to cut it off when it's how many losses you have in your column. I was actually, and for personal reasons too, but I was pleasantly surprised to see Indiana in the top 10. Because even though their schedule has not been the greatest, they won all of their games, and they've been really impressive in winning those games.
I was about to say, I think they've won every game by double digits, right? That's a very, very difficult thing to do. But I also understand why people are confused looking at BYU and going, okay, well, they have more top 25 wins and a stronger strength of schedule. They're both undefeated. Why is Indiana ahead of BYU in the overall? You know, I can see both sides of the argument.
Well, the thing about me, I'm glad, like you, to see Indiana up as high as it. But for Penn State to continue to get love is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm with you, man.
I mean, that is pathetic. Penn State with the 28th toughest schedule, according to ESPN. You lose to Ohio State at your own stadium over the weekend. Let's listen to Ward Manuel, what he had to say about the Ohio State and Penn State.
Penn State lost to the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes, and it was a game that went back and forth, and obviously a game that could have gone the other way. It was back and forth. And so in that, they've played, they have wins over Illinois and Southern Cal in overtime, opening win at West Virginia, which is difficult to play. So we looked at their body of work.
Seriously?
Tennessee has an impressive win over Alabama at number 11.
Okay.
And wins over North Carolina State and Oklahoma. 4-1 against teams above 500. The loss at Arkansas was something that we discussed a lot. And so looking at the resume, looking at what we've seen, the offensive performance, their tight end, Tyler Warren, is a dominating force on offense.
Talking about the Penn State offense.
So I just think Penn State, in terms of their body of work and what the committee saw in terms of their body of work, that came to the ranking of Penn State at 6 and Tennessee at 7.
Okay.
Well, that's reassuring.
Does anybody on this show right now think that if Tennessee lined up and played Penn State, who would win that game?
No, it's Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
How about Indiana?
Well, if we're going to go we're going to go historical, why do we think that Penn State, if they get in a college football playoff, is going to win one game?
Well, my point. I think everybody behind Penn State in the rankings would be favored over Penn State. And that includes Boise State. Because Penn State has no offense. But when you're sitting there, and this is the problem when they get on these, and we go through this every year on these Tuesday night shows, when they get in and they start having to try to explain themselves, they throw up on themselves. They have no clue what they're talking about.
How many times did he say in all of these clips? You can he's stuttering through all the answers.
So Penn State's number 6 because they've got a great tight end. Seriously.
That helped them a lot on Saturday against Ohio State.
They're number 6. Well, part of the reason is because they opened up and they went to West Virginia, and that's a difficult place to play.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play.
Doesn't matter the team that they played, but historically, that's a tough place to play, Pat. They burn couches there.
Yeah. Okay. I told y'all last week. I was really hoping that I was going to be wrong. I was hoping that I could come in here today and I was going to apologize to not only you three, but to the listening audience of Three Man Front, that I was wrong. But unfortunately, my fears have become reality. This is nothing but a you know what show. And it will be every Tuesday night moving forward.
We'll all tune in.
Yes.
For the You Know What show.
Absolutely.
Well, Veterans Day is right around the corner, and they are celebrating Veterans Day at Twin Peaks and Hoover by honoring those that made the ultimate sacrifice and giving back to Tunnels to Towers. Tunnel to Towers is a foundation helping America's heroes by providing homes to first responder families. Get into Twin Peaks and Hoover all throughout the month of November and donate $5 to Tunnel to Towers and receive $5 back to spend on yourself at Twin Peaks this December in Hoover. So go visit our friends at Twin Peaks and Hoover and order a 29-degree man-sized draft while you're there. They also sponsor our daily three-man front Twitter poll question of the day. And Molly, what is our question for Wednesday?
So last night, 4 SEC teams made the first CFP rankings. So we asked which team was incorrectly seeded. Was it Georgia at 2, Texas at 6, Tennessee at 8, or Alabama at 11? And right now winning the poll is Alabama at 11 with 38.5.
And I agree with that. And the reason why is because I would not have Penn State in the top 11. If you have Penn State in there, I'd have them at 12. So that would mean that Alabama would absolutely move up because the Penn State ranking is just disgusting to me. So for me, I would have voted Alabama. I think everybody else from an SEC perspective is really where they need to be.
Yeah.
But even if you were to move Alabama up 1, that would be in a better position because Penn State has no business being in there.
No, they should. It's very similar to how a lot of people feel about Notre Dame.
Yeah, and that would be a great game, Penn State versus Notre Dame. That would be the game right now.
But this is a great example of why the last 4 weeks of the season, for some teams 3 games, some teams four games, they're going to be so compelling. And this is not watered down the regular season. This makes these matchups like pre-playoff games, play-in games. I love it. But as far as how they came up with some of these, I didn't really expect anything
It's
else.
a television show. Let's always remember that.
It's a TV show.
It's a TV show. All right. We got a busy 3-man front. 10:45, Brian Edwards will join us from Vegas Insider. Got some interesting angles for some of our SEC games coming up this weekend. 11 o'clock, Chris Stewart will join the program, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. At 12 noon, the National College Football writer for Outkick, Trey Wallace.
Fantastic.
He is going to join the program, get his thoughts on what he saw last night with the college football playoff rankings and what to expect this weekend. Big games for Georgia and Alabama. This is a very busy Wednesday edition of 3-Man Front right here on Jocks 94.5. 1025 Jocks 94.5, 1045. We'll talk to Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider. When it comes to plumbing, always have a pro on standby. That's Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They're family owned and operated. They handle everything from faucet repairs, water heater maintenance, commercial plumbing, sewer line repairs, and so much more. One call will do it all for you. That's Iron Mountain Drains and Plumbing, 205-516-4927, or go to ironmountainworld.com. 205-834-9450. That is the Courtesy GMC text line. We have a couple minutes before our first guest today. If you'd like to shoot us a text, give us a call at 1-800-239-WJOX.
Yeah, Pat, we got a lot of those texts rolling in on the text line. Still some election aftermath, and this is someone else that texted in, said, took me 3 hours and 45 minutes at a poll location there in Northport, Alabama. A lot of folks taking a lot of time yesterday to go out and vote.
That's good.
I'm glad that you did. This question comes in, guys. Why don't they just rank them the way they're seeded, or will they change that for the playoffs like they do for basketball?
Well, what was so interesting, because last week that question was actually asked during the webinar, and they kept telling us, do not look at the brackets. We will not look at the brackets. We will rank the teams 1 through 25. And then after we come to the conclusion of the 25 best teams, then we will insert our criteria. Then we will come up with a bracket. Well, then why'd you release a bracket last night then?
Well, in the way that it was revealed, where you had, it was the bracket, and then you had the little bit on the side that had the actual rankings. It was kind of, yeah.
David asked, doesn't the Big 12 champion get an automatic bye?
No, it's the top four.
Top four ranked.
Correct.
Yes.
So what they do, you look at the top 25, and then if the Big 12 falls within that criteria as one of the top 4 ranked conference champions, then you get a bye. That's why I'm saying that there's a chance that Boise, if they win out, they could overtake the Big 12 champion, because the Big 12 champion may have multiple losses and Boise would only have the one, and that would be to Oregon.
I was about to say, typically this would only happen with I don't know if we're going to have a year where the SEC or Big 10 champion would fall out of that category. It'll probably be ACC and Big 12, but
right.
Reed asks, what's Army's strength of schedule? In my eyes, they're the ones that got screwed. Unfortunately for Army, their strength of schedule and their wins, their best win is East Carolina, and they fired their coach.
That Notre Dame game coming up, though.
Notre Dame's it can help them.
That's your shot. Yep.
It can certainly help them, but I think it was Army's opponents. They ranked like 126th.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only data that I have is I've got 2 sets of data. One, what ESPN sent out last night, which is the top 12 strength of schedule of the top 12 teams. And then I have one, the strength of record, which Alabama was a top 10 in that category. They were at number 10, but I do not have Army's information.
Thank you for the text, Reed. Great first segment today, guys. Love the college football playoff breakdown. Thank you.
Sorry, it might have been a little bit confusing. We're trying to work through it too.
Our friend BB just sent us a colorful illustration. Thank you, BB.
BB said that she had to wait over an hour yesterday.
Enjoyed hanging out. Yeah. Out there in Chelsea Park.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone again.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Tuesdays are fantastic, and there were so many new listeners, or I would say listeners to the show, but new folks attending Social Taco because they've been listening to the show. So we appreciate them stopping by and saying hello.
We're actually getting a request for putting a speaker up there.
Yeah, we need to do that. There's some interference and some Bluetooth things because of the equipment that we have, but we're working on it. So hopefully we'll have that done very soon.
Corey texts in and says, didn't watch the whole thing. I was confused as hell watching the rankings. Why not go back to the BCS style and take the top 12? Takes a human element out of it, maybe.
In just a minute, I have the full breakdown of what the BCS would look like this morning compared to what they did last night. And it is fascinating.
The good old computer rankings?
Yes, the ones that has the Sagarin, the Massey ratings, the New York Times computer poll, all that fun stuff.
This text reads, it doesn't matter. It's all going to work out after this weekend. Some of it will be cleared up.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but we still have time. This text, I'm questioning the strength of schedule metric. How is Penn State's 28th? They haven't played anyone besides Ohio State. Well, they're getting credit for a win over a ranked, at the time, Illinois. Apparently, they're getting credit for going to Morgantown in the first week of the season.
Hey, it's a tough place to
It
play.
is a tough place, and they got a good tight end, man.
You know what they say about every national championship contender?
Got to have a tight end.
Got to have a great tight end. Just look at Brock Bowers the last couple of years.
It's a good example.
It's a wonderful example.
All right, we will continue to take your texts. The phone lines are open at 1-800-239-WJOX. This is the Wednesday edition of Three Man Front right here on Jocks 94.5. Well, there was actual tackle football last night that went on. Maction began last evening as Bowling Green took out Central Michigan 23-13. Meanwhile, Miami of Ohio scored 6 points there in the fourth and final quarter to overtake Ball State on the road 27-21. It's pretty amazing that Miami, after they lost their kicker,
Big win for Chuck Martin.
was stolen from Miami of Ohio, but they were able to get the big win. And just because they don't have a kicker, they're 5-4 now, 4-1 in the MAC. So that program is surviving. Now tonight, that's at 6 o'clock. Northern Illinois